Man, I went into that night just knowing like we're going to witness history. It's either going to be completely heartbreaking or a complete changing of the guard and everything that's happened, over the last whatever 50 years is going to change tonight. We knew that we had to you can't kind of chicken out in those moments. You need to be strong in the fact that you are there to document history. You're there to tell their story. These guys might not want that in the moment, but honestly, they're going to look back and be glad that people see how passionate they were, how pissed off they were, how, they care so much. And so you really have to stick to your guns. And yeah, you know, that whole game, Mitch had an outburst in the locker room. Austin kicks us out, and in the moment, it's like, okay, this is great for the show. This is entertaining. People are going to like this, but it's also like this is real, and this is you have to be there to tell the story.
Daniel, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. I'm actually a fellow Daniel, so this is awesome. Thank you.
It's always good to meet another Daniel. So we're out there, folks.
I'm Anthony.
What's up, Anthony?
Daniel, how's your day going so far, man?
Great. Yeah. So far, so good. Still early, but yeah, so far, so good.
Yeah, for sure. You're based out of New York, right?
Yeah, and we're out in the burbs in New Jersey now, but yeah, in the New York area.
That's amazing.
Yeah, out in Montclair, New Jersey. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, so not too far from where you guys are, I believe. So, but yeah, moved out to New York to do the whole doc thing, and yeah, been in that area for the last 20 years now.
Nice. So, are you indoctrinated into being a Buffalo Sabres fan?
Oh yeah. Grew up going to the Odd. My dad had season tickets at the Odd, so yeah, the McGillney, LaFontaine, Andrechuk years were kind of my formative years, and yeah, it's been a dry spell here for what seems like an eternity, but hey, still keeping the faith and still watching every game. And I've even made my New Jersey living 9-year-old son a Sabres fan somehow. So yeah, it runs deep.
Yeah, 100%. I have such a love for the Sabres just because obviously you guys had such incredible players that I love like players like Danny Briere and stuff like that growing up. But also my first NHL game ever was in Buffalo. I was just talking to Anthony about this. Yeah. We drove down to see the Sabres play the Leafs.
Nice.
And I will forever just cherish that memory of that era of Buffalo.
No, those games are amazing. It used to be 50-50. Now I feel like it's 75% Buds fans, unfortunately, and we're losing the battle. But yeah, there was nothing better than a night like a hard fought 2-1 victory, with half the fans filled with Leafs fans, so that you could kind of give it back to them during the game. It was those I still remember leaving the Marine Midland Center, buzzing after games like that. So similar memories for sure.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And just congrats with FACEOFF. I think
Thank you.
For so long, I think the NHL has been missing this side of the game, right? And it's funny because we were talking about how much I love 24/7, and we used to watch that, and I'm like, oh, of course, you are behind that as well too. So it's cool to see that DNA come forward.
It feels like an evolution for sure, and I loved working doing the 24/7 show. I did the Maple Leafs Red Wings in the big house, and yeah, that was very much in the moment, very much what's happening on the ice matters, and the results on the ice. This really, I think the NHL, as you said, needs to sell their stars, to get people to know who these guys are. They're so guarded, humble, whatever you want, however you want to kind of categorize it, but their personalities do exist, and they're entertaining, and they're fascinating guys, and for whatever reason, that doesn't necessarily shine through in all the things that they've done in the past few years. So yeah, in taking on this job, I really wanted to make that the number one thing. Like the results on the ice were almost immaterial, and we knew that people know the results on the ice. We need to add another layer that adds value to what people already saw, and is almost besides the point. You care about what happened to this person, win, lose, or draw, regardless of whether they're, going out in the first round, not making playoffs, or winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. And that episode 4, that game 7, when you're in the locker room, the Leafs locker room, and Matthews comes in, he's like, "Get out!" And it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, this is so intense. What was it like to shoot that in that moment?
Yeah, it was definitely intense. So we have, again, like I said, I've been working with the Leafs for a long time. They've been down this road. Steve Keogh is one of the best kind of pros in the business as far as a PR guy. He gets it. He puts us in these positions to get the content that we need. And we had last year, we were embedded with William Nylander, and so there was a familiarity, a comfort level with our crew so that we could even be in that room to get kicked out. That, man, I went into that night just knowing like we're going to witness history. It's either going to be completely heartbreaking or a complete changing of the guard and everything that's happened, over the last whatever 50 years is going to change tonight. And obviously it went the way it went, but yeah, we knew that we had to, you can't kind of chicken out in those moments. You need to, you know, be strong in the fact that you are there to document history. You're there to tell their story. These guys might not want that in the moment, but honestly, they're going to look back and be glad that people see how passionate they were, how pissed off they were, how, they care so much. And so you really have to stick to your guns. And yeah, that whole game, Mitch had an outburst in the locker room. Austin kicks us out, and in the moment, it's like, okay, this is great for the show. This is entertaining. People are gonna like this, but it's also like this is real, and this is you have to be there to tell the story.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we love so much, like throughout this, is that we get to see like these hockey players being vulnerable because we're just so used to how they are on the ice, and obviously they want to leave it all there. But like, to see people like McDavid just like having those moments, like it's so like as a fan and as somebody who like I wanted to see Edmonton win the cup this year. I would have loved to see a Canadian team win the cup. Eventually, it's been so long, but it's just to see him like to leave that, like to have that feeling. It's just like, oh yeah, like there is still like that human behind, the guy with the shield on his jersey.
The first time I met with Connor, it was very much, he was into it. He's like, my friends think I'm so boring. They're like, why are you doing this? He has self-awareness. He knows that he is the greatest player on the planet. And I think, he didn't, you have to kind of drag that out of him. But yeah, to me, it's one thing to watch a regular hockey player tie their skates. It's one thing. It's another thing to watch Connor McDavid tie his skates, because it's basically like Mozart, whatever, sitting down to the piano. It's like that level of greatness. Anything behind the scenes of it just feels special, feels different. And I think people, I think we really gave him a fair shake and gave him painted an accurate picture of how much he feels on his shoulders. I don't think you can come away from watching that episode and say, this guy's having the time of his life chasing down this cup. It's like he feels the pressure. He knows the expectations. And you just want to kind of like give him a hug and say, like, come on, like, have fun, man. You're doing things that people would only dream of doing. And yeah, I think he knows like the only way to kind of relieve that pressure is going to be to win a cup. And I'm dying to know, as you said, I wish they won this year, because I'm dying to know what that moment is going to look like when he wins it. We've all had these goals that we've tried to achieve our whole lives. And then you get there and you're like, oh, I'm still the same person I was before I achieved this goal. Like, is everything going to change? Are you going to see him, kind of being wacky and celebrating? I kind of doubt it. So it's yeah, to me, I'm fascinated by Connor McDavid, and I think there's still definitely more story to tell there.
And talking about pressure, being able to see Sidney Crosby and capturing a day in the life, because I think for such a talented player, you don't really hear much about him or see much about him. He's such a private person, but seeing like the amount of pressure that's on him to win his cup, or for him to continue to win a cup, or even the being athletic at a certain age. I think him and a bunch of other athletes are redefining what it's like to be at a certain age and be athletic. I think that mindset is kind of like slowly changing.
It's unbelievable. I was blown away. Again, like, he is so closed off, and I think the bar is low. Like, as you say, spending a day in the life with him is something that very few people have gotten to do. And so that was a, pinch yourself type of moment to witness greatness. Like, he is in that inner circle of, LeBron, the MJ, like these guys who are like, he's in the pantheon. And yes, the greatness, he was born with a level of greatness, but spending that time with him, the thing I came away with most is like, there's no way of faking it. Like, he is that great because he works his ass off every single day. And like, people think he's boring, and like, what else does he do? And it's like, I think the truth is he just works out and plays hockey and that's his life. And I think, but he's thoughtful. He knows what stage he's at in his career. He talks about, playing now. He played with guys back in the day. Now he's playing with their sons. And, like, that's really, interesting to me. Someone who like feels their mortality, but is still a point a game, amazing player in the league. So, just witnessing greatness again, I think is something that I think an audience will always kind of respond to.
Yeah.
Amazing. No, I just curious, there's you obviously, you must have just eons of terabytes of footage that you guys capture like throughout the years of doing this. When you're coming in for season 2, what did you want to change for this season? Like, how did you guys want to evolve from the first season of the show? And I guess, how did the Four Nations face-off really kind of throw things for a loop? Because it was cool to see that kind of revisited throughout the season.
That was such a gift. The Four Nations was obviously a gift that fell in our lap. We didn't know it was kind of this goofy, tournament that first time ever doing it. It's only these 4 countries. Like, we had no idea if it was going to be kind of a laughing stock or an actual tournament. And the way the guys cared about it so much, our characters specifically, really added another layer to this season. That was such a gift. I'd say the evolution that we talked about every day from season 1 to season 2 is that character-based story. We didn't want any story that was contingent on results on the ice. Everything had to be steeped in this person, their journey, and personal stakes, personal goals that they're after, that we see either come to fruition or not. So that was really, and in season 1, to be fair, we started around the All-Star game. We had to pick playoff teams basically, so just to have enough runway to tell those stories. So this year we started earlier. We were able to tell regular season stories like Columbus, like Pittsburgh, like potentially Ottawa, even though they made it, that wasn't a sure thing by any stretch. So it was, this year the evolution was really like, it has to be more character based, because I think the best episodes from season 1 were the ones like Jeremy Swayman or, William Nylander, like David Pastrnak, the guys who were bared their soul. And it didn't have to be the top 5 in the Art Ross. It could be, a Jeremy Swayman who, people maybe didn't even know about, but really resonated with an audience because you saw yourself in him. He gave amazing access and all those types of factors.
And speaking of access too, I think as miserable Leaf fans, being able to see somebody like Marchand during the Four Nations face-off and like be like, wow, it's weird cheering for this guy.
Yeah.
But also he is such an interesting personality. So I guess, like, what was it like working with him? Because God, again, like, the Leafs fan in us is like, oh, you hate this guy, but like, he's a brilliant hockey player.
Yeah.
Right?
And I've never had a turnaround for a human being as 180 as I've had, coming as a fan. Like, there was that whole, when Lucic hit Ryan Miller and, he was part of that team, and Sabres fans hate that whole crew of guys. And he is such a pest on the ice. But over the years, you have to appreciate how great of a hockey player he's turned himself into. And then you're around this guy. He is beloved by his teammates. He is before and after every practice, he's in the weight room working his ass off, and like he walks the walk, and he's personable and kind and nice to everyone. It's like I've never my brain exploded being around him, and you realize like that pest stuff, it's not an act, it's part of who he is, but it's how this, 5'6", 170-pound guy is one of the best players in the NHL, because he's turned himself into this player that you want no part of on the ice. And so I could not have gained more respect for Brad Marchand through through this process. And man, I did not have that on my bingo card going into the process.
I believe it. Daniel, we're so grateful for your time. Thank you so much again for sharing it with us today on the show. And I really hope that we get to talk to you down the road. So thank you so much.
Sounds great. Good to meet you guys.